This is Andi Purewal for ID Boxing. I'm joined by promoter Eddie Hearn out here in Abu Dhabi. Eddie, all the different places in the world you're taking shows, and now you're bringing boxing to Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, it's a massive moment for us as a business, massive moment for Abu Dhabi. Incredible show you've seen from, I hope you like everything so far. Tuesday night's a little bit different, but this is all about levels this week. You know, this is all about making a major statement. It's all about a long-term partnership with DCT, a new era for boxing here, a new project for us, and I can't wait for Saturday night.
I'm interested to know what your long-term vision is for boxing out here in Abu Dhabi, Eddie. Obviously, looking at the amount of shows you put on across the world, does it kind of make things a little bit more difficult in terms of keeping the stable not being stretched too thin, shall we say?
I mean, really, every international event that we do is great news for our stable because it gives our fighters opportunities to stay active, also experience new markets, new surroundings. Here, it's about the development of boxing in a region. You know, it's about grassroots boxing, it's about developing elite amateur talent, it's about bringing some of the biggest names in the sport here. And this is a long-term plan with DCT. I would expect you to see somewhere in the region of anywhere between 3 and 5 events here a year, all of significantly high level. This is a great start for us. But you've seen, you know, 2 weeks ago, obviously Dana was here at UFC with a huge event. 2 weeks before that, NBA were here. Next week, 2 weeks' time, you've got F1 here. I mean, this is, you know, a very, very important market for commercial sport. And we are the only global promotional company in the world. And this is going to be a very important market for us.
Obviously, this first launch event, shall we say, is Dimitri Bivol, Gilberto Ramirez. Great fight. Everybody's interested to see what Ramirez can do against a leading contender now. So what do you make of it?
I think before the Canelo Alvarez fight, I think everyone saw it as a 50-50 fight, really. But obviously, through the Canelo Alvarez victory, he now sits as a pound-for-pound star and pound-for-pound ranked. Zurdo's a very good fighter. You know, I just saw him turn up. He's huge. He's 44-0, I believe. Former 168-pound world champion. It's an elite matchup. Very, very good fight on a very good card.
Do you think Dimitri got the credit he deserved on the back of the Canelo win, or did people overlook it and just looked at it kind of Canelo, this formidable foe, had fallen short?
Yeah, I think people look at the reasons why he didn't win, you know, Canelo Alvarez, rather than the brilliance of Dimitri Bivol. A lot of people in boxing have for a long time talked about how good Dimitri Bivol is. Sometimes you need an opponent like that to prove it, but this is another elite opponent, so I'm looking forward to the fight. It was a great performance. He's going to have to produce another great performance to win on Saturday.
I know you've got a star-studded lineup of fighters travelling out, Eddie. Will Canelo be in attendance?
Possibly. AJ's coming. I think Devin's coming. A lot of Andy Ruiz. We've invited Mr. Wilder and many others. There'll be a lot of big names here on Saturday. Not sure whether Sal will be here. We'll see.
In the background, have talks begun over that potential rematch?
Yeah, I mean, Sal and Eddie Reynoso have made it clear that they want to try and avenge the defeat to Dimitri Bivol. So, obviously, with Zurdo being a fellow Mexican, they'll want him to win on Saturday. But at the same time, if Bivol was to lose, I'm not sure the Canelo rematch would take place, or certainly would have as much. There wouldn't be as much interest around that fight. So we'll have to wait and see what happens.
In his post-fight after the loss to Dimitri, Canelo said he wouldn't mind it back at 168 for the undisputed crown. Has that been discussed?
You know, Bivol's talked about for a while that he can make 168. And he's got aspirations to become undisputed himself, probably at 175, but it's not something that's been discussed. But, you know, we'll see what happens on Saturday. I wouldn't rule out Dimitri Bivol moving to 168, but, you know, I think also Canelo's the kind of guy where he wouldn't want to change too much, do you know what I mean? He wouldn't want to find a way to get a different edge in the fight. I think he'd want to rematch him at 175.
Just looking at some of the card as well, Rakhimov, Barrett for that vacant title now. I know Joe Cordina's coming out to watch it as well, so yeah, just your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, Joe was, I say unlucky. You know, the IBF followed their rules around that particular incident, but was still unlucky. You know, and both Rakhimov and Zelfa Barrett have both signed to fight Joe Cordina if they win, which is great for him. In the next fight, it's a brilliant matchup. You know, Rakhimov is the favourite. He's proven at that level, but this is the opportunity of a lifetime for Zelfa Barrett. You know, he can do this. He can win this fight. Be a massive victory for him. I'm all over him to win this fight, and I can't wait to see him attempt to become world champion on Saturday.
For you, Eddie, how big would the fight be between Zelfa and Joe?
It's a big fight, you know, especially if Joe Cordina's victory against Galal was stunning. If Zelfa was to win, his profile would go through the roof through beating Rakhimov. and that's a huge all-British fight for a world title. So that would be next. Like I said, both Zelfa Barrett and Rakhimov have both signed to fight Joe Cordina in their next fight, and we'll see who wins on Saturday.
Eddie Cameron McCaskill, looking at some quotes and comments from Chantal, certainly seems personal on her side.
Yeah, it's a brilliant fight. You know, we created that tournament really for Chantal to get an opportunity to become undisputed at 140. She gets it on Saturday. It's taken a little bit longer than we anticipated with the Callie Reese illness, but it's a brilliant fight. You know, and to be fair, you know, Jessica doesn't really get the credit she deserves. You know, she fought Katie Taylor at 135 in a really good fight. She moved to 140, won a world title. She became unified. She moved to 147 and fought Brackhouse twice, became undisputed. Now she's trying to become undisputed at 140. She's a huge star of the sport. The styles will clash brilliantly. It is a really, really good fight.
If you can't come to an agreement between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, is Chantal Cameron, if she's successful, next in line for you for a potential fight with Katie Taylor next year?
Yeah, I think for a long time everyone's talked about how good that fight would be, but it should be a fight that is a mega fight. Victory for Chantal on Saturday would make it a mega fight. Katie will fight anyone, and that is a very dangerous fight for both girls. And if Chantal can become undisputed on Saturday, the two of them, the 135 to 140 pound undisputed fight, would be a big one.
Galal Yafai back in the ring, always exciting to see him back. Eddie talks about his fight.
Yeah, gutted obviously with the Ben Eubank fight falling through. There's a lot of people who had to move off that card. We moved quickly to reschedule them, and Galal Yafai was one that we rescheduled for here. He was happy to do it because Cow also returns on the card as well. I think Galal's really close to a world title fight now. You know, 2, maybe 3 fights tops before he challenges for a world title. And this is a very tough fight against Rodriguez. It's a big step up for him, but I believe he's an elite talent.
I saw some comments from you, it might be in a tweet that you put out, that you think you could challenge for a British title in a couple of fights on the back of a Tommy Frank one. Yeah. Is that the plan, try and push?
I like that fight. You know, I do. I know we've got plans for Galal to get to world title level quickly, but I still like them going through the British European route. So, you know, I've no problem with fighting a Tommy Frank, Jay Harris, you know, those kind of guys for the British or European titles.
Kal Yafai returns, Eddie, 2.5 years out of the ring, a long time, and there will be question marks over kind of his hunger or desire left. From your conversations, what does he still want to go into?
I think, look, he's made a lot of money, so I don't think he really needs to fight again. He wants to fight again. He's still a talent. It's going to be very difficult for him to come back after that period out of the ring. So there's a lot of pressure on Saturday, but you know, I think literally one fight and then straight back into a big fight for Cal.
And then just moving away from this, get your thoughts on a couple other topics. As you mentioned, Anthony Joshua travelling out here. We know he's not fighting this year, Eddie, so where do things actually stand? I know we spoke about the potential Dillian Whyte fight, but have you got any update as to where things stand on that?
Yeah, we're sitting down with Anthony in Abu Dhabi, and really it's about, you know, is he going to fight in February or is he going to wait till April, May? And if he waits, he'll probably go straight into a Dillian Whyte fight, maybe a Deontay Wilder fight, but I still see him having one more before that. Or if he fights in February, he'll fight somebody else first. And that's the decision that he's going to make quite quickly, I think. And, you know, we'll talk to him this week about which path he's going to take.
Eddie, what are the actual viable options in your eyes? You mentioned Deontay Wilder there, but it's expected the WBC are going to call the final eliminator at the convention.
Deontay would still take a fight with AJ over the Ruiz fight. You know, I also like Whyte against Wilder. I like AJ against Whyte. There's a load of big fights out there. It just depends if he waits to go into a bigger fight or if he gets a fight under his belt first very early in the year.
What's the relationship like with Shelly Finkel and that team?
They actually emailed me today. Yeah.
So what did he say?
I emailed him in August to talk about an offer. He came back today. It was a long wait, but at least he replied. You know, that offer that we had to him was to fight this year. But obviously with our relationship out here, we'd like to continue that offer. I actually invited Deontay and Shelly out here this week. They can't come, but we'll be working with them and trying to come up with some ideas. Again, it all depends on AJ if he waits to go into a fight like that or if he has a fight early in the year. But I see AJ against Deontay Wilder as a must-make fight. I really do. I think it's one of the biggest in the sport.
Okay, so just to feed off what you said earlier about how you feel Deontay would take that fight ahead of Andy Ruiz, I imagine the feedback from Shelly was positive to some degree.
Well, they just want to know. They want to know the numbers, you know, and of course they should do as well because there's a lot of money in play in the shows that we're doing, and you know, I feel that we can hopefully have some discussions and see if AJ against Wilder or Whyte against Wilder or whoever it is could be an option, particularly out here in the Middle East.
Looking at how open or receptive they may be to that, Eddie, would you say that he's maybe in the front running now for the fight? Or?
I mean, literally it was a one-line email, so yeah. But look, it's positive, and I think Deontay's going to want the biggest fights out there, and he knows that's AJ, and AJ has always wanted the Deontay Wilder fight, so hopefully you can see that in 2023.
Eddie, Oscar De La Hoya's arrived now. Your mate, Tyson Fury. I'm sure you saw his viral clip with True Geordie. I just want to get your thoughts on that first.
Yeah, I thought it was, I thought that Tyson doesn't really like to be pressed on a lot of things. I thought True Geordie was asking a lot of questions that the fans would want to ask. I mean, look, you sometimes ask me questions that I don't really want to answer, but it's my job. But it's not really Tyson's job as much. I guess, he's in a way, but I don't know. He don't really like it when he's quizzed on certain things. But I didn't think it was like personal or anything, the questions or what True Geordie was doing. But Tyson obviously didn't like it.
On that front with Tyson, he said in that interview that he's kind of AJ's right at the back of the queue now, and he's kind of some way away from challenging him for a fight. Do you anticipate that fight may well be dead and buried now, or can he be revisited?
I think it'll always be there, but whenever a fight falls through like that, for the next few months everyone hates each other and everyone slags everyone off, and then eventually you realise how much money is in it, and then we start again. And that's probably what will happen. But I do expect him, if he beats Chisora, to fight Usyk in March or April, and we'll do our thing, and maybe we meet the middle end of the year. I don't know.
Mentioning Devin Haney being out here as well, looking at that, is he a free agent again though, or?
I'm not sure exactly. I think he's got minimums in his agreement. I don't know the exact setup, but we're not bringing him out here to talk business just as friends. I think he wants to come out to the region and look at the growth of boxing here, and we'll see what's next for Devin.
Have a growth of boxing. Crawford Avanesyan was announced last weekend. You didn't get your thoughts on it. What did you make of seeing that fight come out of the blue?
Every time I say something, Neil Marsh and those guys like all I said was no one wants to see that fight. Like, David Avanesyan's a good fighter. He's a really strong fighter, but if he boxed Terence Crawford 5,000 times, he wouldn't win once. So therefore, and he's a world-class fighter, David. But obviously everybody wanted Spence against Crawford. They got Avanesyan against Crawford, which no one asked for, no one wants. So I'm not saying it's a terrible fight. I'm just saying, so yeah.
BLK Prime, Eddie. Do you know anything about that?
Nothing at all.
Fair enough. And then just before I let you go, obviously Kyoguchi losing earlier. Just get your thoughts on that, Eddie.
Yeah, I was gutted really. I fancied he'd win that fight. It was a brilliant performance by Teraji. Very, very good fighters. A proper elite unification matchup that was. So congratulations to him, and Kyoguchi will be back.
Jake Paul victorious over the weekend as well.
Yeah, I think he's always going to get the stick. Anderson Silva's not a boxer. He's 48. Yes, all of those things, but that was only his 6th fight. So give him credit. He's never going to be like an elite fighter, but he's okay. He's average. And there's a lot of average fighters, and he's improving, and he's dedicating him to the sport. So good luck to him.
Right, Eddie, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Right, thank you.